Aslında Batı izinli toteizm bakıcıysa var. Från izinli bak. Geçen de böyle.
Allied spies had found out that the Kagyptian Union was up to something so secretive and so big that gathering intel about it was close to impossible. Any intel that they could gather only raised more questions. Thanks to the breakthroughs of the scientific mission on Minmus, the Allies were now able to build a sophisticated satellite network system. This network system, of course, would be disguised as a simple communications relay network, but in reality, they would monitor all encrypted communications from around the world. They would also take pictures of certain areas of interest. Once the satellite network was complete, the three nations were hard at work on decrypting the communications of the KU and its allies. And even though the pictures taken from the satellites were grainy and hard to see, you could still make out the movements of resources and hardware. The Allied mountain states, alongside the Ullrite Kingdom's coalition, would build the first interplanetary probe to test out the range of these new communications technologies. Their target was Eve. Eve was the closest planet to Kerbin, and no one really knew anything about it. The only information came from speculations from observational science. Why was it purple? What did its little moon actually look like? Was it a captured asteroid? Theories ranged from the planet being a tropical jungle to a barren wasteland. If the probe was successful, not only would these questions be answered, but it would prove that interplanetary communication was plausible. Everything was looking good. The communication strength between the probe and kerbin was strong, with no sign of weakening. But the Allies would be reminded that space travel is not that easy. This was very bad news. The communication technology of the time simply was not powerful enough for those types of distances. This meant that no scientific probes could ever leave kerbin. Scientists and engineers figured out that in order for the probe to stay in constant contact with kerbin, it'd have to be 10 times its size with over 100 relay dishes, which meant that the obvious answer was for them to research a new, more powerful relay dish. Plans on building a new Minmus mission was underway. The first thing they would do was replace the Venturer with a newer, more sophisticated spacecraft. The Venturer was a good ship, but it had served its purpose and it had several different design flaws that couldn't be extended into the next mission. The Discovery would dock with the space station New Hope. There it would wait until the new Minmus lander could be built and sent up. The three nations speculated that KU and its allies wouldn't be able to do anything big anytime soon. Communication technology simply wasn't advanced enough for any one nation to leave kerbin space. Because of this, the allies would concentrate their scientific missions around kerbin and its moons. Hopefully, with any luck, the communication technologies would advance soon, allowing the Allies to start sending deep space probes into the solar system. However, in the summer of that year, everything would change. Alarms rang in the URA Space Center that day. The KU had launched a ship twice the size of the Discovery. Scientists were baffled. The size of the ship, the amount of fuel and room that it had, was this some sort of large-scale moon operation? Surely it couldn't be for interplanetary travel. Without a more advanced communication technology, sending an astronaut to another world was suicide. There'd be no way for them to contact kerbin, and kerbin wouldn't even know if they were okay or not until they came back. If they came back. It didn't take very long for the Allies to figure out what kind of ship it was. It was definitely a warship. Even though it was fitted with outdated missile technology, they were still lethal. Finally, the news started pouring in. The KU and its allies were boasting about being the first to build an interplanetary spaceship. The ship's name was the Horus. The three nations found themselves between a rock and a hard place. If the KU and its allies managed to go to Duna and come back, the scientific knowledge that they would have gained would tilt the balance of power in the world. The three nations had no choice. They had to refit the Discovery for interplanetary travel. The Discovery, a ship designed and built for lunar travel, brand new and never tested, and now suddenly it had been refitted for interplanetary travel. Saying that the three nations were taking a leap of faith was a gross understatement. The brave individuals that would be selected for this mission would be taking a leap into the darkness, and possibly the jaws of death. Even though the ship was technically fitted with enough fuel and life support to make it to Duna and back, they would be gone for almost 3 years. 3 years with no contact from Kerbin or calls from family and friends. They would be completely alone in deep space. If anything bad was to happen, they would perish. The stage was now set. The window to Duna was almost here. The KU and its allies in one corner, and the URA and its allies in the other corner. Who would reach Duna first? Who would come back? Would anybody come back? Only time will tell.